Hey guys, welcome back to WholeCrazyFam. It's Austin, and today we are going to do ArtSkills Wood Burning Design Studio. It's my first time doing something like this. I've actually wanted to do wood burning for a long time. This is going to pretty much show how well it goes for beginners. I'm going to learn as I go with this, and hope you like it. Hope I have fun. Yeah. This is recommended for ages 12 and older. Adult supervision is required. This right here is basically what you burn with, and it can reach 716 degrees Fahrenheit, and if you use the metric system, 380 degrees Celsius. So you really want to be careful when you're using this, otherwise you can burn yourself, and that will not be good. So what we did was we took everything out of the box and we have it all setting out. So we have the wood iron, the burning tool, and then we have the stand for it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bend the stand so that whenever we're not using the tool, we can set it so that it's not sitting on the surface and risk burning anything. But we're going to be extra careful, and we actually have another surface to set it on. That way we're just have extra precaution. Okay, so here are all the tips, and I'm going to read off basically what they are used for. So we're going to start with the stripe tip. So this one is obviously super thin. It is good for straight lines, and it's very sharp, so I guess you could use it for getting good clean corners. Okay, so next is the detail tip. So this one is the detail tip. I'm struggling with this name if you can't tell. It is good for small areas and detail. I don't know why I keep wanting to say dental, but it is what it is. Next is the broad stroke, which I believe is this one? Yes. So this one is quite thick. Says great for shading large areas. You see it now? Okay, next one is angled tip. I believe is, yes, this one. Okay. It's a little tricky to read them upside down, but this one is small and looks like it's a quite sharp edge. Says works good for shading. So there's kind of examples of what they do. There's, so you can see it does, the detail tip can do like little dots and lines. I just messed them up a little bit. And then this one is a super wide line. And then the next one is soldering stroke. It says makes fine details. As you can see, it's very tiny and long, and comes to actually a quite sharp tip, so it can make super thin lines. And then next would be the X stamp. So it is quite literally an X, which actually that is kind of pretty cool. Next is asterisk. So it's this one. creates perfect asterisks, along with the X does perfect X's. Next is the shading stroke, which, as you can see, almost looks like some kind of pen, like tip to a pen. And as you can see, it kind of, like, that's actually pretty cool. I don't really know how to describe the like form of the line, but it says shade using broad strokes. And then the texture stroke. This one is actually pretty cool. As you can see, it's kind of square, and then it has these lines through it. So this one, add flawless shading. I think that one honestly looks like it could be my favorite one. This one is called calligraphy stroke. Perfect for lettering, and as you can see, it is pretty small, but yeah, it's pretty small. This one's supposed to use for like the lettering. I will show you the stencil here in a minute. So that is all the tips. This one keeps trying to roll around, so I am actually going to put it into the wood burning tool, and I'm going to show you simply how to properly do it. You want to make sure that is perfectly straight. You want to be able to have it glide. You don't want to have to force it, otherwise that could mean you are ruining the threads, or you are pushing something into the tool that's not supposed to be in there, and you could possibly start a fire. So you want to make sure that everything is clean when you put it in, and be very careful when screwing and unscrewing this, because if you have been using it, this part will be very hot and you can burn yourself. So just be careful when you are switching what tip you are using. You don't want to damage anything, otherwise you either will not be able to use it, or it can cause a lot of problems such as injury or damage to other property. It also says you're going to want to use smooth jawed pliers to screw and unscrew this when it's hot. That way you don't burn yourself and have to deal with that pain. So I'm going to show you what they have for the canvases now, and they're basically little pieces of wood, and they actually have these mitered edges on actually both sides, so they're crisp and clean on both sides of the wood. There's this oval shaped one. I don't really know how to describe this one, but there's this one. There's this one. I kind of like this one personally. And then there's simple rectangular one. And then this bubbly shaped one. This is the plaque I'm going to use. I feel like the plaque is going to really bring out the design on the template, and I feel like they will complement each other pretty well. and then we can do like our own little designs out here on the edge. So I hope it turns out well. Okay, so as you saw before, we have the template here. This is reusable. You can use it on more than one plaque, so you can do more than one design of it. And then there is also this carbon paper, and as you can see, this side is gray and then this side is black. You can also reuse this until this black side there is no more whatever this stuff is on it. I believe it's carbon of some kind. So now we're going to come down here. Come on, you're supposed to be going down. Yep, you got it now. Okay. So, as you can see, sorry, that was my watch. As you can see, like I said before, there are two different sides. You want the black side down on your palette, and then you want to have your template on top of it, and as you trace it, it will basically indent onto the carbon paper, putting the carbon onto the palette. So want to make sure that it is properly aligned so that none of the parts are coming off of it. I suggest that you tape it down so that it's not sliding all over the place. Okay, so I have tape. I don't know if you can see it because it is clear, but I am going to fold the end to make a little tab. I've already done it on this end, so now I'm going to, I've already done these three corners, so I want to make sure that I'm not covering the design, but I want to make sure that I have enough to where it will securely grasp both the carbon paper and the template, and tape it over to the back side so that it holds it and so that it's not sliding. I need to redo this corner real quick, and then there. So now I have my template and my carbon paper taped down so they're not sliding while I am tracing, and so that it doesn't mess up the design on the palette. Okay, so I now have this taped down. I have done a couple of examples. As you can see here, the R and this little strip up here. Get you a little close up real quick. So right here, you can see that it's a lot darker than the lines around it, and then also down here with the R. You have to be very careful when tracing this, because where you mark it will transfer because of the carbon paper. So be very careful and try not to mess up as much as you can. And I am going to finish tracing this, and I will get back to you guys when I am finished. Okay, so I just finished tracing it, so now it's time to take the carbon paper and the template off. So I'm going to carefully remove the tape, try to make sure it doesn't break so there's no tape left on the wood. this one stuck itself back down. And now I think it turned out pretty good. There are a couple spots that I messed up on, but they weren't super bad. As you can see right down here, it's a lot thicker. That's one of the spots I kind of messed up on a little bit. Just be careful, because you can see where it's scraped some of the edges. So now we can set this aside, and I'm going to set the pencils aside now, since I am now done with them. Next we are going to start burning. So reminder, this can get very hot. Do not touch it when it is being used. Remember to use pliers when you are changing the bits so that you do not burn yourself. And then it also says to have a ceramic or metal dish to hold your bits, basically so that you are not setting them on something that can burn and you ruin something. So I'm now going to plug this in. Okay, so we have plugged it in, and we have left it plugged in for about 5 minutes, which is what they recommend for the time for it to heat up. Remember to tape down your stand so that it's not sliding around and you don't accidentally bump it, and then it's not there when you go to set your stuff down. We have put a couple examples on here, and we are going to test out how well it burns. As you can see, there's a couple straights, there's a circle, and then there's some like squiggles, and we are going to see how well this burns. Remember, be very careful. I can actually already see the metal starting to turn dark from the heat, so be very careful not to touch this, because if you remember, it gets over 700 degrees Fahrenheit. So just be very careful and be very mindful of where you and everything around you is. And we're going to get started and test this out. It is burning very smoothly. It stinks a little bit, but it's not a super bad smell. It's actually burning pretty well. Don't really have any complaints about it. Yeah, you want to be careful of how long you hold it on here, because I don't know if you saw it, but there's a spot that I held it for a second too long, and it kind of burnt a bigger spot, and also let a little bit of smoke. So you want to be very careful of how you burn, where you burn, and how long. So, because you don't want to let it sit for too long, but you also don't want to move so fast that it's not burning enough.
You want to write your name in cursive real quick?
As you can see, it actually burns fairly decently. I'm going to set this aside, and later I will show you how all of our tips look on the wood when it's used. And I am actually going to get started. So I'm going to finish this, and then I will be right back with you guys and show you how this turns out, and then I'll show you how all of our tips look. Okay, so as you can see, I did kind of a border. So I've done all my letters, I've done this circular lining, and then I also did kind of a textured border. I like how the border turned out, except for this little bit up here. I was still trying to figure out a good motion to keep it from completely burning. So first, I want to make sure that you know that you need to watch your tip as you're using it, because I had the problem of it starting.
Sorry.
You good?
I think so.
Okay. So first I want to mention and make sure that you guys notice that as you're using it, pay attention to your tip, because I ran into the problem where I was using it and the tip would start to become loose and start to cool itself down. So it wouldn't stay as hot as I needed it to. So just make sure that it's properly tightened on, and do not touch it with your fingers. Make sure to use your pliers to tighten it as you're using it, to make sure that you're getting it as hot as it needs to be able to burn it. So I'm actually going to real quick show you how to change it. This is still plugged in, so I have to be very careful because it's still very hot. I am going to grab it, and I'm just going to simply twist this. Notice that I'm not touching the head of the pliers, because I ran into the problem where even that would get hot and I accidentally touched that, and that kind of hurt. Make sure you put it on the plate so that it's not sitting on the table and burning. So, and then you want to make sure that your grooves are all straight so that it doesn't mess them up. Which way am I turning here? I'm turning this way. And notice I am still using the pliers to put it back on. That is so that it doesn't heat up while my hands are still on it, and I don't accidentally touch this metal part. And real quick, I am going to untwist this, and then let the tip heat up real quick. Make sure that stuff's out of my way. And if you do burn yourself, make sure to unplug it, and then try to treat the burns as quickly as you can. That way they don't blister and make things a lot harder for you in the long run. I'm actually going to use the fine tip to do some of the finer lines. As you can see, there's this, there's the stop that's super fine, there's parts of the letters in never, and then there's also lines in the mountain that are super fine. So I'm going to go ahead and do those real quick. Okay, so you have to be really careful with this fine tip, because as you can see, I'm doing like around the V and the R, and it's actually really sharp, so you have to be careful on your angling, otherwise it's more doing a cutting motion instead of a burning. So you have to be careful with that. Really, it's just pay attention to the angle that you have it, and then again I need to tighten this. So remember, keep an eye on how loose your tip is. So okay, so I am now finished. I think really the only quote-unquote complaint I have would be this metal ring. For how long this metal piece is, it's kind of hard to keep good balance for doing the fine lines. So I was holding it really close and my finger like slipped and touched the metal ring while it was hot. So I do have a couple spots I need to take care of here after I'm done. But really, I just have to say, be careful, watch where you're putting your hands. It got very hot to the point where even from here, I was starting to sweat. Really, just be careful. Make sure you have an adult when you're doing it, so that if anything goes wrong, they can take care of it. Make sure that when you're not using it, you have it unplugged so that it's not still heating and it can cool itself off. Make sure that it's not in a spot that's going to fall and hurt anybody or anything. This is what it looks like after I'm done burning. Next, I'm going to paint. It says to wipe the surface clean. I have already done that. Make sure in the directions it says to use a white eraser to erase any pencil marks you may have made. So make sure your paint is wet enough to your desired consistency. If you need to, after it's already dry, if it's not dark enough for you, you can go back and add layers. So pretty much just try not to overdo it. You would rather underdo it so that you can go back and touch it up. After it's already dry and it's too dark, it'll be a lot harder to lighten it up. Okay, so I'm done painting. This is the final product. It is a project, but it's the final product. I really like the paints. I was kind of worried that they were going to be really light. I really like how the colors are very vibrant. So overall, I would say it's about a 4 out of 5. I feel like it's a little long. I feel like it could be shorter. It's a little hard to maneuver with the tight like crannies and stuff. I feel like there should be an indicator light showing that there's power going into it, so it's either hot or heating up. Other than that, I feel like it's a really good product. I had a lot of fun with it. I would say that if it were a little bit shorter and it did have the indicator light, it probably would get a 5 out of 5, but really that's the only problem I have with it. I really like the paints. I feel like it transferred the design really well. It heated up pretty fast. I really liked that, mainly because I was kind of worried that it would take a while to heat up and I would be sitting here just waiting and kind of be wasting time being able to do nothing. I really like that it heated up well and really fast. I had a lot of fun with this product. I'm going to have my mom put this on her Etsy page. We will leave the link down below. Remember, like, subscribe, comment, bell notifications, all those things. Thank you guys for watching and hope to see you guys again soon.